Welcome to day. Thank you. I'm going to do my screen sharing. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our Marketing Cloud Email Specialist Bootcamp. We hope that you found, our last session very refreshing, and hope you guys are excited to do a lot of learning as we want to welcome our very first speaker, Aisha, with us today. So the first thing we want to do is just say thank you to our sponsor, Gilda, again, for all of her support. Also, thank you to JB and thank you to Aisha for joining and supporting all of us. And let's say thank you to all of you for having such an interest in learning and wanting to learn with us.
Naji, one quick thing, do a full screen presentation now.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. So again, thank you all for joining tonight's class. So today we are going to be hearing email marketing best practices from Aisha, and our next speaker will be Kaylin Moss. So that is just to kind of let you know who will be speaking next. And with that being said, Aisha, welcome. We're going to get ready to kick it off to you. I'll let you share your screen. And I will be monitoring the chats if you guys have any questions, as well as if any of you guys need anything, have questions for Aisha, go ahead and send them my way. I will be asking them at the end of our sessions just to give Aisha a chance to really focus on presenting without any interruptions. All right.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really happy and excited to be here. Let's get over to sharing the screen. There you go. Share. Got it. Let's move this over. All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Aisha Marie Zwane. How to contact me are there on screen, literally my whole name. If it's, you can Google me, either Aisha Marie Zwane or Black and Honesty, because I do digital art. You'll see either the marketing side of me, you'll see the art side of me. So today we're going to talk about email marketing best practices for the 2022 version of the Email Specialist Bootcamp now. Let's go over. These two links are GitHub and LinkedIn, and then Twitter. So a little bit about myself. I'm not gonna talk about my place of employment because I'm brand new. So I'm gonna keep that a mystery until I make that announcement. For now, I can say I am a marketing champion 2021. So, and I'm an occasional conference speaker. I'm a former board member and meetup chair of Women of Email. So if any of you are active in Email Geeks or Women of Email, you might have heard me in passing. I used to be very active. Nowadays, I'm creeping back into being active in the community space. Also was a co-founder of How to SFMC. A shout out to any of the team members, anyone that's here in support. I love you back, all of you. So also I am a certified in SFMC email specialist back in 2020. And I am nearly a ranger. I'm just a few points shy, not quite there yet. So there's that. I'm currently taking that Litmus email developer certification. I'll be done in the next few weeks, and that'll be my next cert. The next one after that is admin. So there is no shame in, attempting tests again and again until you pass. I almost passed my first shot, but it is what it is. Totally understandable. But that's why we're here. We're here to study and get it done. Also, I'm a Miami native. Bilingual, hablo español, for the Latinos, Latinas, everyone else. And yeah, that's it. Anyways, about me, we're done. Let's move on. So some quick study tips that were my own good ones before we begin for email marketing best practices. It's probably the best and most important thing to do is to spend time on Trailhead, as you know, unexciting as it can be sometimes because it gets a little daunting with all the links, but actually spend time on going through those help pages, go to those PDF links. You think it's not important, but then you see that little data point, you read it a few days ago, and then you take the exam, you're like, I remember I saw that. It's good to read and reread a few times. And it's okay to say that, hey, I thought I knew that as a best practice. And then you go back to some of the documentation, you're like, oh, wait, I have to check to see if that's still up to date. So even the most knowledgeable experienced marketer sometimes has to be humbled, and it's always perfectly good to just go back and check. That being said, there's also a lot of misinformation and older content. So you definitely have to check and triple check if there's anything else that you might see in one page, but then it's not on the other. Probably the best guide is always going to be on that main page to study. Anything else? That's it. And also, I actually was testing myself to see if I remembered this little screenshot of Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I started right after they did the UI change. So I remember seeing this in tutorials, but I actually didn't get to see this. But, you know, if you don't see that now, that's fine, because now it's a lot nicer of a UI and it's only getting better. Let's go to the next one. So this is what we're going to cover. These sections for the presentation. We're going to do the email marketing best practices, some compliance, talk about a little bit of Marketing Cloud Einstein, and deliverability and reporting. We're not going to do too much of a deep dive to the last 2 or 3, but at least on high level, definitely some things and terms you need to know. So quiz time, maybe. So email marketing best practices, it has been around for decades. When was the first marketing email sent? Gilda, do we put that up on the chat?
I'm just waiting on people to give me some responses. We got some responses. I see Ebony was the first one to respond with 1971. We got some Ashley coming in. We got Gaurav at 2000, Tony 30 years ago, Travis at 1978, Courtney at 1985. We got quite a few entries coming in. So
awesome. Well, that will be valuable if you're right. Anyways, so the next one over. So the initial setup, before you get to start creating the email marketing campaigns, make sure you've got the sender profile set up. It's what you will use to send the campaigns. One second, let me move my screen. There it is. So I'd say one of the first things you definitely have to look at is, do you have SAP? Did you purchase it? You can kind of do it on your own, but it's probably almost always better to start with having your own SAP package. So what is a sender authentication package or authentication? Sometimes I add additional words. So it uses 4 main tools to vouch for your email messages so they're timely and then relevant. You have a private dedicated domain, have a little example there, custom account branding, a sample there. And then we have your dedicated IP, custom domain for cloud pages, which is very handy for that preference center, and then reply mail management. SAP also includes DCAM, which is really important for you for deliverability. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. So for the initial setup, I did screenshots rather than going into my own work just in case, you know, financial nonprofits, all of them get a little bit icky if you take screenshots of your own instance. Sometimes people are a little bit more open. Unfortunately, not this one. That being said, we have a few more samples, and this is a sample of the UI of how it looks like. UI, I'm going to refer to it some acronyms, user interface, just in case for everyone there on the internet. So we have here, Marketing Cloud has the private dedicated domain, custom account branding, and this is just kind of a more spaced out version of the previous slide, so you can see everything there. So we have the custom domain examples, we have a preference center, and then landing pages. Like when you go to unsubscribe or you want to change your preferences in an email, you go over to the preference center links, or, you know, it depends on what the brand uses or whatever retailer it might be or anything else. If they are on Marketing Cloud, they will have a custom, generally, they might have a custom domain for cloud pages. I'm sure it's out there in the wild, but just it's not as much anymore as everyone starts to convert over. Then for the initial setup, you have to create sender profiles that standardizes from the from name. I don't have a screenshot for that, but I can think on the next slide I do. Because sometimes, you know, you receive an email, you look at it and you're like, wait a second, who is this from? And sometimes people try to obfuscate that. And that is definitely something good to know, that we're going to be talking about that in the later slides when it comes to CAN spam. Then you have the delivery profiles that has the sender profile, includes from the from name, information of your sends. The delivery profile includes the important message information from each send. And then we have the send classifications. So an email can be a commercial email or it can be transactional. And the marketing emails that will be like your usual, hey, here's a sale, everything else, everything's 100% off. Likely it's like 10%, but it's going to fall under commercial. But if it's transactional, hey, thank you so much for purchasing, you know, this cell phone today. And, you know, it has your receipt and everything else. It's going to be a transactional message. So how to create your effective email after you've set everything up. Before you send and create the subject lines, you don't ignore the pre-headers. This happens a lot nowadays. And I wouldn't say like a lot, but a lot of the times people are like, well, all I have to do is just have a subject line. No, you're missing so much amazing real estate by not also putting in a pre-header. I mean, you're paying for sending out the full message. You might as well have your subject line, the pre-header, and then also the body of the email that includes all of the good stuff. And we'll get to a few screenshots coming up next with that. Also, when you create that effective email, when it comes to email marketing, you try to make sure that you do it personalized, dynamic content. Either you utilize AmScript or dynamic content blocks for simplicity, but also know that just because an email, just because you put in %% and put in something else into it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's all AmScript. It's a personalization string. So I think we might have that on the exam. I think I remember it was a question. So that being said, think like a subscriber. While personalization is important, you have to be thoughtful to get really good engagement. Like, the reason that there's such a like newsletter renaissance happening nowadays is because people are writing really good content. That's why you have Substack and all these different places, because people are genuinely wanting to talk to people directly rather than going through different CMSs and platforms and go-betweens. And beyond that, we have also the fact that you have to craft a creative, an effective CTA or a call to action. They can be, and call to actions are not necessarily always buttons, but that's the easiest way to describe them. Excuse me. They can be text, they can be highlighted text, or they can be buttons. Personally, it just depends because they all kind of look really great. It just, let's see what's in the code. Let's see how it looks and let's see how it renders. Do you have that litmus link or email on acid link? And let's see how it looks like. And that's if you pay for that, because that's going to be an add-on for Litmus to have it within your platform. Pop quiz for that one. So when you're creating the effective email, you have to, make sure that you're informing the user or your subscriber, really in general, what is this email about? You want them to come back. You create the effective pre-headers because you're supporting that subject line that's going in. A lot of the times you're going to see a little bit of an acronym. So SL for subject lines for the newbies, and pre-headers generally will go PH. Sometimes people go P-H or P/H, but in a lot of, it just depends on which agency, consultancy, or brand you're at. Everyone has their own nuanced way to kind of do their acronyms in email. It's not, and not everything is right or wrong, but for SL is probably universal. So you'll see that pretty commonly. That being said, we have that. It also says that limit the pre-header. As I was looking through all the things to remember for the exam, try to limit the pre-header to about 100 characters. Even better, slash that, quarter of that. Make sure it's short and sweet. You want to get to the point, but also make sure you do some really cool hacks for the next class that maybe it's going to be put in. That being said, there's always a lot of great code hacks you can do for that stuff. Make emails relevant using personalized dynamic content. So you can use the WYSIWYG on Content Builder, or you can code it from scratch. I prefer code from scratch. Not everyone does. And that's okay, because you can all still send email. And probably my favorite line of all time that I learned when I was doing a lot of e-commerce, what's the value proposition? It's like the universal marketing term. How is the subscriber really, what are they getting out of it, and what are they essentially going to enjoy the fact that you sent them that email? Like, it's not just, oh, I thought of this great idea, let's send it to them. No. Why are they going to be engaged with the content you just sent them? And you're going to minimize your unsubscribes, your spam, and everything else. I would say half of my friendships and relationships and everything is me teaching them not to hit spam to unsubscribe unless they really disliked it and they never want to see that thing again. So methods to acquire the new subscribers. A lot of these are really interesting because they're coming up more and more. Like mobile has moved up to the top rather than as much as websites, especially when it comes to like retail and, let's say, concerts, things like that. So subscribers will consent to these different marketing methods. You have mobile, websites, single opt-in versus double opt-in, which is more like the different ways you can do that via mail. Generally, double opt-in isn't used as much anymore, though it was really a thing a few years ago. And then you have sales and customer service calls. So that's you call a call center. They might ask you, hey, would you want to be subscribed in case we have a new deal or new service available in your area? In particular, sometimes I'll even consent to that. quite often for, let's say I'm talking to my electricity, my phone, I would say my electric provider, electricity, FPL, Florida Power and Light, and things like that. Just, you don't know what you don't know until you find out. Then you also have the in-store promotions. Let's say there's a little kiosk when you walk in to a Best Buy or anything else. Sign up. Hey, let's see what's going to be on sale for Black Friday. And then from there, you just kind of like compare your options. Which industry are you in? What industry is your client in? I like to always think of, no matter if I'm on brand side or not, I'm like, what does the client want to get out of it, and what's going to be their ROI? What is their return on investment? So no matter what the method is chosen, you will need to gain the trust of all of those subscribers. Make sure that you communicate in a timely manner. Don't just send them an email and then like 3 months later you're going to think that they're just going to be just as engaged. I definitely say engage with them a lot more often than just, especially in a business to consumer space, more often than just once or twice a month. I'd say more, but don't do it every day. As you can see with the news for certain brands going down bit by bit. I'm not going to name names. It's not my style. Anyways, so methods for engagement. Keep all your customers happy. All interactions are memorable. Make it count. These are like little pithy sayings, but at the same time, it gets in there. So you want to keep your customers happy. All interactions are memorable. So like make it count. So even if you just get people to look at your emails for 3 seconds, they're going to read it quickly, subject line, maybe a little bit of the pre-header, and they'll make a decision within moments. Do they want to open it? Do they want to click it? Do they want to get rid of it? And so you want to make sure that you make that moment count when it goes to the subscriber's inbox. So you don't want to force it. Newsletter resurgence is coming out. So this is just, again, talking about how people are sending out newsletters in general. I mean, they're informative, but their value proposition is not as high necessarily always. So shots fired in that, but who knows? So here we have then the offer incentives. Like, what are you offering to the people that are subscribed to your emails? Make them excited, but without the exclamation points everywhere. You get those little emails and you're like, oh, this is really cool. Why do they have like 5 different exclamation points and all of these like just crazy practices? And then bit by bit, you'll see in a few weeks that they start creeping into your spam instead. Well, they went through the deliverability hell and they landed in spam. So definitely be hesitant, use it sparingly, not to not use it, but be careful of those question marks and exclamation points because you might come off as a spammer. So be careful there. Once in a while, you're fine. So also make a good first impression. How does the email look like? How does it render? Accessibility is really important. As most users, I don't have the link with me, but maybe I'll dig it up after the class. But most users on iOS, I think it was something staggering, like 70 to 80% use some sort of accessibility on their phone. And as I'm just saying, people that have any, let's say, I can't really see well or anything else like that. No, they might be like, well, no, I want it to be on dark mode at all times or something else like that. So always be careful and check all the different ways that something can render. But also don't do 50,000 hits on Limits trying to get one thing perfect when you've already done it a few times. So time is money. On that note, you have to plan the content carefully. So let's say we're over here sending out something over to Best Buy, and I'd like to get something specific, hey, I want these people to get these refrigerators because they're on sale. It's that time of the year where people are changing out the refrigerators. So make sure that someone signed up in a kiosk in that section where there's heavier electronics, refrigerators. You plan a little welcome series, start educating the consumer on what they possibly would like to buy. And then you personalize it. Read your data policy first. I mean, if you have one, if not, start thinking about setting it up yourself, because you want to know, and also if you have legal counsel, every company, at least the bigger ones, mid-sized ones, will always have some legal counsel you can speak to about how you handle data and how do you personalize it. I wouldn't say that they would dictate it, but I would say it's good to refer back to them and talk to them about how you're going to render it so everything is kosher. So compliance, good times, probably the part that I was most nervous about. Why? Because I know too many lawyer friends. So US laws like CAN spam, which serve as a compliance guideline for emails and other forms of marketing. So CAN spam is probably one of the most relaxed of the first world countries, but it's still one of the most influential when you see other ones. So what do I mean by that? So let's see. So this one was actually a really funny tidbit, because as I had someone proofread my slide, my deck, they actually sat there and they're like, wait, that's what CAN spam actually means? Yeah. So CAN spam actually stands for Controlling the Assault of Non-Solicited Pornography and Marketing Act from 2001. It's actually enforced by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission here in the US. And it was done in the Bush era. It's over 20 years old. CAN spam is really, I think CAN spam can drink. Yeah, CAN spam can drink. So that being said, for the first one, you have to accurately identify the sender and the header information. I will wait to the end to show that piece. Use a subject line that accurately represents the content of the email. Identify the message as an advertisement, whether something is an ad or not. As we were talking about earlier, it's either commercial or transactional send. So commercial would fall under advertisement. You always have to also include your physical mailing address. So when you look at your emails now, think about the fact that, did you see if they included their physical mailing address? Well, then if they did, then they're likely CAN spam compliant, especially if they have all of these other numbers that you see here. But if they don't, something to think about. Then you also have to honor your opt-out request promptly. A lot of senders do so promptly because they have their preference centers set up, custom to do it automatically, programmatically. But under the CAN spam law, you have to process the unsubscribe request by 10 days and keep your unsubscriber mechanism operational for at least 30 days after you've emailed them. It says they're mailing, but it's about email. And also you have to provide an opt-out. You don't want to sign in to their site so they can continue to track you when all you want to do is just get out. Sorry, I don't want that fridge anymore. Let's unsubscribe. No, you can't have me back in there. So here's a quick example. This is the from, and this is the reply to. I'm generally not a person that does the reply to. Some people do though. So that's how they've likely set up their reply mail managements. And that's something to remember next. So you have the date of when it was sent, the subject line, and all the other things that we have there. And then you can unsubscribe. But that's on the top end of when you look at it as a user. So then we have compliance, data and protection and privacy tools. This is a little bit of an extra thing for the geeks. I actually spent a little extra time looking at that, depending on where you're located. Marketing activities could be subject to different regulations, such as CCPA, GDPR, or CASL, which is CCPA is in California, GDPR is Europe, CASL is Canada, or even something else, because a lot of countries, at least 100 and something of them, probably closer to 200 or more, have their own laws on email or any sort of advertising, digital electronic ones. So I'm not a guru on it. I only have emailed probably a couple million, but they're generally not in the countries I don't know they're at all their laws about. So why am I mentioning all this? So compliance, data protection, and privacy tools. Marketing Cloud also has these tools for consent management, data deletion, data portability, and restriction of processing that are some really cool features I actually didn't realize we had here on this platform. So these are usually available in the form of several APIs and different applications within Marketing Cloud. But before you do anything on it, I would actually read as much as possible, know about your audience before you try to implement it. Why? Because you can turn off tracking. You can do so many different really great options for the users, but it definitely limits you as a marketer on how you can justify certain actions or behaviors. So I'd kind of tread carefully and strategically and know your audience well enough to see, hey, which ones are good for us to work on with our audience, to see, hey, send them a quiz. How do you guys feel on this or anything else? Especially, let's say if you have a very tech savvy audience in particular, I'd really consider, reading up on this. All right, I provided a link at the end of the presentation, so you guys can spend some time looking at it. Okay, so compliance directly control the compliance settings in Email Studio setup. So if you want to avoid delays in standing up email campaigns while adhering to CAN-SPAM laws, administrators now, so previously, let's say I wanted to do a campaign, but I didn't want to, not a campaign. I wanted to just check to see, hey, I coded this email, but I didn't put in the subscription center or preference center in here. I'm just going to be testing myself over and over again. A lot of the times you had to go in and send a help desk ticket, or I forget the formal term right now, but you had to do that. Now you can control it all within setup in Email Studio. Email Studio, no, it's set up. Hold the thought. I will come back to that. Yeah, it's in Email Studio. So admins on the platform can enable or disable the respective compliance check for Email Studio setup by going to the email optional features. So it's actually really handy that this is there, because previously you had to put in a help desk ticket, or let's say help wasn't getting to it, you had to speak to your AE on this, your account executive. So now it's nice, you got some control. And you can also control if users want to mess with that too. Let's say you're in a large enterprise and you're one of 50 senders. You don't want all 50 senders to start messing with this. You don't want them to go rogue. Put a stop to it. That being said, this is actually really interesting. So email deliverability in terms of best practices. So you want to get consent. Don't put in these lists that, hey, the salesperson found these really great people. Where did they get them? Did they sign up for that? No. Don't put it in SFMC. So email lists, get that consent, whether it was on a mobile page, if it was maybe on a website, or if it was on a quick little kiosk sign up. Make sure that that consent is there and can be recorded. I'm a little bit more conservative, but hey, you never know. And that's the way things are going in that route. So use branding. So make sure you have that from address, that one that we saw earlier. Make sure you have that set up correctly and you're not kind of fishy on it. My name is Aisha at, the best email marketer ever. And then the domain is like at xyz.com. Might be spam. And you'll get hit for that. So use email subject line branding and optimization. Sometimes like to front load the subject line saying, Aisha's the best email marketer ever at whatever, wants to talk to you about email deliverability, email best practices. So on the side, on the orange side, we have all the avoid the common words and phrases that are targeted by spam filters. We have the use of certain words like links that can be sketchy websites. When you're sending an email, try to avoid sending linking to a bunch of different pages in one email, because that can set off your email going into spam. Make sure that messages that are written don't have all caps all over the place. Also, can be sent over to the dark side. Then also remember that just because you're not prioritizing your email looking great doesn't mean you can send bad code. Why? Because if your email is HTML, is full of hot messes in there, well, guess what? You're also going to land in spam too. So it's okay to be a perfectionist also. Emails without that unsubscribe button, that is like the bane of my existence as a marketer. So many marketers try to be a little bit greedy, but you got to be careful. So shots fired. Let's keep on going. So we have scams, gimmicks, schemes, promises, free gifts, like that Nigerian prince from Africa that's going to give you $1 million. So all that stuff. So list hygiene with services and good content. So also something to remember, real world talk. List hygiene, though it's helpful, it doesn't fix a bad email program. I'm going to say it again. List hygiene always is not going to, hey, whatever brand you decide, hey, they're going to help us with our deliverability, they're going to clean our lists. That's not always going to fix everything if you're sending bad content. You're not thinking of a good value proposition. You didn't get the best consent because you got it from an affiliated party. So anyways, then there's also ISP compliance. By doing good IP warm-ups, which is warming your emails to making sure, like when you first purchase that SAP, when you start sending out emails, let's say you're sending a welcome series so people can get excited about your brand that you just started on. Well, as you do that, you have to do that in a careful way. There's actually several help pages dedicated to what kind of volume you can start off with. And you can set up automations for that. You can do journeys. Likely it's a mixture of queries and automations in order to get you to a good spot when it comes to your IP that you just purchased and want to warm up. And then you have a volume filter avoidance. You don't want to go too crazy high. Let's say today you're sending out 1,000 emails and then tomorrow you want to go to 1 million. Well, Gmail won't like that. So definitely be careful, strategic, and make sure that what you're sending is just good stuff. So here we are for GDPR. We're going to lightly talk about it here. Privacy is seen as a fundamental right in Europe, which is freaking amazing. Law went into effect back in 2018, and it's a lot stricter than many laws throughout the world. And it's seen as kind of like a trailblazer. Literally, it said that on our pages as something that you think of the user, the private citizen first, and they have rights to keep their data. They, and the penalties that come with GDPR, they also have hit American corporations that are located or have their subsidiaries in Europe. So it can definitely do a deep impact. So if you're doing emailing to Europe, that falls under GDPR, definitely make sure that your legal counsel is brushed up on it and knows what they need to do and what they need to follow in order for you to stay and remain compliant. So, quick little tidbit on Marketing Cloud Einstein. You learn about it, turn it on, see what's going on, what's inside, and what works for the program you're working on. I personally have probably touched a few of these, not all of them, but there's a lot of really great things that you can do with all of the different kinds of Marketing Cloud Einstein tools. So these are the types of Einstein you'll need to know. There's Einstein send time and frequency optimization, or just Einstein or STO. Probably the most frequently used one that I've used on Journey Builder. So you have it on Journey Builder, and now recently in one of the latest releases, you have it on Automation Studio. And it leverages the engagement data. Then you have Einstein Copy Insights, and that's for email subject lines. So this one, I actually didn't really know about it till a few months ago, and I started playing around with it. It's pretty good. I like it a lot, actually. Sometimes I'm just bored, and let's say I'm in between different jobs for things that are processing or things that are going on, and I'll be like, I wonder if this subject line might work better if I did this. So I actually really enjoy playing with the Einstein Copy Insights. And that'll be under here where it says Email Studio. Let's see if maybe I can source a screenshot. If not, we can probably find it out on Trailhead. Then you have Einstein Content Selection, which works in Content Builder, leveraging your assets by using rules you set up as attributes. So it's kind of like, you can use it. I would utilize it when you don't have so many different, gosh, I'm trying to think of the word. You don't want to use Einstein Content Selection when you have literally millions of things to be selected. If, let's say, you have a smaller mid-size brand doing some things, it's probably a great idea for that, especially if they're not someone that, you don't have a developer or several developers that are, SFMC devs or engineers that can work on some things like that. But who knows? You never know until you start trying and testing. And probably the best advice I ever got was once I got into, probably it was like my third instance, I'd ask, hey, what does this do? And a friend of mine would tell me, I don't know, just click it. And I got over my fear quickly. I don't know if she's here, but shout out to Jenna. And so here we have also Einstein email and web recommendations. You define key Einstein recommendation terms and attributes. So you can use that for like an e-commerce site because it leverages web. And it's actually really neat, but I haven't had the use case to use that or to try it. But definitely worth something to just read up on and make sure that it exists, because you might have that as a question there. Here's a screenshot of Einstein STO on Journey Builder. So, and then here are the last two that are good to know. Einstein Messaging Insights, they alert you on the changes of your marketing performance, no matter where you are in Marketing Cloud. it's actually really handy, especially if I don't do like, I'm generally not one that does a lot of heavy reporting. I kind of shy away from the reporting because it means I'm not coding, I'm not designing. To me, it's not productive. I'm one of those people. But it is very cool to see that, because kind of a one hit, let me make sure that everything's going out. If there's an anomaly, hey, what if you're starting to have like issues on one of the SKUs that are in that email or something like that, and the deliverability is tanking because people are frustrated, and you're getting a customer service call going crazy. Check Einstein messaging insights. Then there's also engagement scoring. It predicts the consumer engagement with email and mobile push messaging. Again, I've used it a little bit, just not quite as much. Let's go through here, the next one. Deliverability, IP warming, and all that black box stuff. I was going to do a cheesy joke about planes, but I was rejected. It sounded too bad. It was a bad joke. We'll keep on going. Deliverability, some terms to note. Phishing is impersonating a trustworthy source to criminally and fraudulently acquire sensitive information, such as usernames, passwords, credit card details. Now, this one's actually really popular for people to get tricked into, but also shady IT departments that want to trick their own users and teach them lessons. This one happens a lot too. Then there's also spoofing. Spoofing is falsifying information in email messages for like that fake from address. A lot of people do that as like a quick trick, a quick cheap trick. It might work to get some engagement or some extra sales, but if you do that long enough, people already know what you're sending, and they're like, sorry bro, I know what you're talking about. So be careful. Don't want to look like a spoofer, especially if you want to follow a good like email marketing best practice. Then you have email authentication. That word is a process that confirms an email is not forged and is the organization who owns the provided domain name. So, all of this stuff, lots of acronyms. Just make sure you know that you don't want your email to not have been authenticated. The process varies, so some of them are stricter than others. Then you have the sender authentication package, what we talked about earlier, and security socket layer. So I am not a deliverability person. I'm your typical email geeky developer person. I just know security socket layer there. It's an SSL encrypts communications between networks, allowing the sensitive information, credit card numbers. So think about it as HTTPS. If that has an HTTPS, then you need that for SSL. So a few years ago, I think it was Google had said you have to now have your site's HTTPS, which is why that is the SSL is included within SAP. That's how it's also in your cloud pages. That's why a bunch of different preference centers got updated these last, I think it was 2 to 3 years ago. Everyone rushed to update them because SSLs had to be included. So reporting a strategy, the double trouble of the email world. Why? You need to report how well, how great, how not great your email campaign went. But at the end of the day, you can kind of tell. Why? Because the true KPI is, did you make them or her, him, whoever they are, did you make that entity money? So reporting and strategy. That's why it's the double trouble of the email world for me or for anyone else. Anyways, so generally nowadays we're using a lot more Datarama. Previously, it used to be called tracking. I have a screenshot of that coming up, but a lot of the things that are being done nowadays is on Datarama. Datarama used to be called something else, Pop Quiz, and write what it was, who owned it previously. If you want to write that down in the comments just for fun. And reporting today in 2022 has changed significantly, especially in these last few releases. So I like to call the free version of Datarama is pretty handy. If, let's say, your brand doesn't want to purchase the more nice version of Datarama, I want to say. And it enables users to generate, view, and share the detailed analysis of email data. It also includes dashboards, pivot tables, and reports. So some examples would be like, I want an overview of all of our emails, all of the automations. How does their engagement look like? And how does their performance look like? So you can make little separate tabs and reports and have them sent with a certain amount of cadence to the different stakeholders. Let's say your stakeholders are basically, the bosses that want to know what's going on with this email, what's going on with this journey. So reporting and tracking, specifically tracking. So the tracking tab, this is minimized, but in general, you go through and see, in my tracking, you can get the tracking details. You have an overview, the send performance, the summary, the inbox activity, the unengaged subscribers, the engaged ones. It's actually really interesting to go through some of this, because also you can tell, what the data extensions were sent over to. And I would say moving forward, you should always try to only send to data extensions, though there are some places that still do the publications and the lists, all that. But data extensions universally are really helpful, especially as your email program grows. And also, once you look through these and you see these clicks, hey, so where were they clicking? Probably my favorite thing to do when I'm going through a quick check, like a gut check for the tracking tab, is check to see when they clicked, are most of those clicks unsubscribes? It gets awkward. So strategy. So email really does constantly change. Like just a few years ago, I remember I got to play with something really cool called Rebel Mail. Now it's become something else, but interactive emails it's called. But when that came out, it was the coolest thing, There's also different things called interactive emails, which we're going to talk about in the next session with, I think, Najee, and all the different other things that you can do. So you need to know all these things. So know when an ad hoc campaign is not the right call. So ad hoc is an individual email, that was requested or needs to be done, as a one piece. And check to see if, let's say, should you automate that email? Think about all of the different reasons why you would want to automate something. Know the data points and clues that are there for your next campaign. Like, should you run one CTA versus another? Things like that. And then how to segment your audience is definitely something that's going to be on the exam. Is when is it the right time to make a query or use the actual interface of Marketing Cloud in Email Studio to send something specifically? Like, hey, this is a data extension and we're going to send to a filtered data extension. Examples like that. So Q&A, let's chat. I have not looked at my chat at all, so let's take a look at what's going on.
No worries at all. I got your back. So I have one question from Jesh Casey that says the screenshot shows email open split. Is open analysis accurate in Salesforce Marketing Cloud since the Apple privacy changes came out earlier this year?
I don't think so, but can someone explain that one over to me? Because in my mind, I've been spending a lot of time talking to stakeholders to pay attention more so to clicks than opens, unless they're actually using something like Litmus, who has certain tracking that they can circumvent the opens for iOS. So that's my only response on that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If anyone else wants to chime in, they're definitely welcome to on the chat.
I believe that for iOS, well, not for iOS, I'm sorry for saying that. I believe that, yeah, I think it is for iOS actually. They have the KPIs are moving definitely away from open, and they're more so in conversions with clicks. So if you're clicking into an email, if you're clicking at any images within an email, we're tracking those for more conversion rates, which is a more truthful conversion rate anyway, because the purpose of opening the email is actually to click, not necessarily just to open. So exactly. I think that's what they're checking a lot. They're checking for now more so than the opens.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to do a quick shout out to Rodrigo. I remembered when you're studying for the exam, inside joke for anyone else that's an email geek, think less email geek, more Ohana when you're studying and when you're taking the exam.
Very, very true. The exam focuses more so on your capabilities to answer the questions from a Salesforce expertise perspective, not from a marketer's perspective. You are taking an exam that Salesforce Marketing Cloud is giving you. So you want to answer in their perspective. I do have a question for you. It says, will there be any demos on reply mail management, or are there any demos that you can show the class tonight for those who do not necessarily have a hands-on org?
I do not. I'm not signed on to my work laptop. What I can say is that would be really cool to talk about in a future session. Mm-hmm. What if anything, that person can, hit me up on Twitter or talk to me on LinkedIn. We can talk about it, because I actually initially had a lot of questions in regards to reply mail management myself, to the point that I recently even started pinging old bosses about it, because I'm like, I wonder if you can just set up reply mail management with data extensions and then ping things off of that. And it's not as customizable as I was hoping for, but maybe in the future. So I'd definitely say, contact me. Let's talk about it maybe in a future session. Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Someone wants to understand, what is the difference between a data extension and a list? That's a test question, guys, by the way.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So a list, a publication list, hold the thought, because I actually have my notes here. 1 second.
And I will be sharing some resources on this as well.
Yeah. Because I used to know this like the back of my hand, but I actually spent quite a bit of time restudying this for the presentation. So let's see. Let me see, publication list. There you go. So a publication list has its use cases, but what is this? Hold the thought. Of course.
We do have some of our fellow chimers chiming in.
Please save me.
Yeah, so data extensions are the preferred method for Marketing Cloud with a list.
Data extension, absolutely.
Yeah, data extensions are what we want to prefer. They're best practice. If they ask you the question of what should the company use, they have over 500,000 subscribers.
That's the number.
Yep, over 500,000 subscribers in their list. What should you do? You want to say you want to use a data extension at all times because it renders more data types as well as more users of 500,000 users. Lists are limited. Now if you're a smaller company, you can use a list, but they are limited and they do not have the same functionality as a data extension.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that. And one last tidbit about publication lists. When you go to tracking and reporting, or you go to the actual individual publication list that you've already used that's been sent, it does a fancy little cute graphic on it. Oh, look, it has this is how many people was sent, this is how successful it was. Like, it has like little cool things to it, but it's nowhere near as awesomely powerful as a data extension. So eventually, I know I heard this in a talk recently, maybe publication list is going to go away. Regardless, I would always just do data extensions, learn it, and you will utilize it, and it will be amazing, especially since it's relevant to the contact model within Marketing Cloud.
All right, so for everyone in this session, yes, we will be recording. This recording will be shared to everyone. It is extremely important that you all know that we will try our very best to send out recordings the night of. However, to the YouTube channel, it may not be added to the YouTube channel until Saturdays, just to get them onto the YouTube channel. So it may be a little slow. Join the Slack channel. That's why you have the Slack channel to see your resources where you can see these sessions and PDFs there. I'm going to see if I can have I'm going to look for any more questions, but I think there was a very small amount of questions tonight. So great job, Aisha. You did a wonderful job tonight. And let me see.
Close off.
Great job. All right, I'm going to take over the screen and share take us home. Hold on. Let me see. I'm going to do here. And I'm going to share. All right. All right, and with that, we want to say thank you again, Aisha, for speaking to everyone tonight. You did a phenomenal job. Thank you all for listening to tonight's session. We want to just have a few reminders. We have the 10-4 content and delivery session that will be presented by Kaylin Moss next Tuesday. It says Najee Bartley, but it actually will be Kaylin Moss who will be speaking. I will be speaking on the 6th. We both will be covering a very, very important section, content creation and delivery. He will be focusing on delivery and I will be focusing on content creation. And your next steps for today, if you have not already joined the Marketing Cloud Learning Camp Slack channel, please do. This is where we have all of your resources. This is where we have test questions. This allows you to speak to teachers and ask questions that you may have, as well as just to allow you to have a really large community of other learners just like yourself who are all in it to win it. Also, please join the, if you can, feel free to join the Phoenix Trailblazer community as well as the Atlanta, Georgia Trailblazer communities, and register for the next session, which will be next Tuesday, October 4th. And finally, there is homework. So there are actually 3 homeworks that need to be completed tonight. Well, not tonight if you can't do it tonight, but needs to be completed before the next session. Please feel free to go ahead and complete those homeworks, as well as there will be resources to help with data extensions, understanding the differences between data extensions, as well as understanding reply mail management and email studio documentation as well. And deliverability best practices also. Those were some of the questions that we had. And with that, we want to say thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. I'm going to take a moment to look at any lasting questions. If you did not get your questions answered, please do not hesitate to add them to the Slack channel. All of our teachers are there to support you. Thank you. All right, and with that, I'm gonna go ahead and say, have a great night. Thank you all for everything. And I will be sharing the homework. The homework will be in the resource channel of the Slack channel. Homework will also be in the homework channel of the Slack channel. Did you want to do anything to the pop quizzes? Oh yes, I do want to say to Venkat Rama, you were the very first student that came to class. You will be getting a reward. Great job. And Aisha, what was the answer to the very first email marketing email that went out?
1978.
1978. And our winner for the very first person to say 1978 is, drum roll, Travis Hawthorne. Congratulations to you, sir. Great job. He was the very first person to say 1978. Ebony Riddick, you were close with 1971, but not the correct answer. And you had one more question regarding Datarama, what the original Datarama name was. Is that right, Aisha?
Yes.
You had a question regarding the what was the original Datarama name, and do you know what the answer to that was?
Dun dun dun.
Dun 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 dun.
It's now called Mark. Actually, I reversed it. I said, I should have said, what is the new Datarama name? Whoops.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. Musa knew what you were asking, and Musa answered with the new Datarama name, with the new Datarama name being Marketing Cloud Intelligence. Great job, Musa.
Woo, so good job. Thank you for speaking, Aisha.
Today's class. Great job, everyone. Can't wait to play more games next time. Woohoo, Musa, great job, Travis, and great job, Venkat. All right.
All of you guys, thank you.
Have a wonderful night. And I will add this link to the Slack channel again right now for those who have who have not been able to sign into the Slack channel. All right. I am very glad you asked for the winners. Good job. All right, everyone, have a great night.
All right. Likewise. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.